Dig this.
Look, everyone's got their childhood games. The average YouTube reviewing person is going to spend a lot of time talking about their childhood games. But out of all of mine, Jet Set Radio Future might just be the weirdest. Not because of the game itself, but because I only played it like once or twice, and yet it never left my memory growing up. And these weren't full playthroughs, mind you. I'm talking play sessions, as in like, I only turned on the game twice. One time, my uncle house sat for my cousins while they were on vacation or something, I think. So while him and my mom were talking, they naturally occupy the 4 or 5-year-old with his Xbox. Aside from Robotech Battlecry, which he would end up buying for me on PS2, I didn't remember anything else I played, which just made Futures stand out more. But here's the thing, this was one of the first games I remember loving, and yet I couldn't even remember what the game was called. All I remember is the early game with you skating around and tagging everything. I distinctly remember this giant dragon statue you rode down too. But most importantly, I remember the title screen at the beginning of the concept of love playing. I mean, seriously, how could you forget this? After that, I never knew anyone who played this game. I'd tell friends about Future and they had no idea what I was talking about. Years went by and I still wanted to play it despite not even remembering what it was called. It felt like I was one of those kids who saw some short on TV that later ended up being lost media. I was almost convinced there was a dream or something, until I saw Beat and Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing and I knew I wasn't crazy. That was one of the most surreal moments of my life. I suddenly felt totally vindicated. Like I wasn't wasting energy on something that didn't exist. And it was from playing a game I didn't even care about. From there, you'd think I'd Google every Sega game I could find until I find out what the game was, but no. I was not that intelligent at the age of 12. But a remaster of Jet Set Radio got announced soon after that, and a good chunk of my life suddenly made sense. Because it turns out I had actually played a sequel to a game I'd never heard of that was only on Xbox for some godforsaken reason. And that explains so much. I didn't know anyone with an OG Xbox beside my uncle, and the game sold horribly, which is why no one seemed to have even heard of it. But one problem. Jet Set Radio Future was, and still is, only available on OG Xbox. So even after finally figuring out what the hell the game was even called, I still couldn't play it for a few more years. But I eventually got an Xbox 360, and I was eventually able to buy a copy off a friend, and then after about 15 years, I finally got to play Jet Set Radio Future. It was pretty good, damn good. Finally being able to play it felt so surreal, like a good chunk of my life was leading up to this moment kind of surreal. Even when there were parts I wasn't huge on, I kept playing it because not seeing it through to the end would feel so anticlimactic. But despite never quite forgetting about it growing up, I don't remember much of that first real playthrough 3 years ago. And that just makes me way more excited to jump back into it. Because as soon as you start playing, you can almost immediately tell how much tighter the controls are. It made me realize what felt so jank about the first game's physics. Your jumps had too much momentum behind them, and you felt so slow. Everything felt off. Not now. The physics are a lot snappier and a bit heavier, which feels a lot more natural for this kind of game. And we even start out in this skate park looking area so you can get used to the new controls. Although the tutorial is still kind of annoying because you just slowly do whatever they tell you. And to be fair, it is better and shorter than the first game's tutorial. But I still question why it's here. I feel like there's a better solution than treating the player like a dumb baby for the first 5 or 10 minutes. Which is bizarre because the game subtly teaches you how to play otherwise. The rival fights from before are still here, but they're done in a different way. There's a few like the first game, but you don't usually have to follow their movements exactly. You just have to follow them to a specific location, which shows you how to get to trickier parts of the map. And they really do test your parkour skills and knowledge of the map layout. With races, you have to be fast. In Capture the Flag, you have to know how to take shortcuts. With Tagger's Tag, you have to be able to follow the enemy's movements. Although that one's less strict than the first game. There's usually a point where they just run in circles for a while, but it's way faster to defeat them before that point. Not to mention it's less nauseating because the tag and camera reset buttons are separate now. You can just hold down the trigger too. No more pointless mashing. The game's smoother in general. Before, you'd have to do this QuickTime event whenever you tagged up a medium or large mural, but that's completely gone. You just tag multiple squares now, which means you never have to stop moving, and that just makes the moment-to-moment pacing so much faster. There were a ton of points where I tried to tag something in the air and the game was just like, no, and I had to stop moving and actually paint this stupid thing. And there was no way to even tell which was which. Spots you needed to grind or jump to were obvious that there were small ones, but it just broke the pacing for so little reason. And this This change gives them a lot more freedom to put tags in weird places, like around corners and next to grind rails and stuff. It definitely makes the mechanic feel more dynamic. And if you worry about moving so fast you fly past tag spots, they thought of that too. You can slow down on rails or click the left stick to do a slide to temporarily slow down and maintain your previous speed when you choose to end it. And even after you slow down on a rail, you can press X or Y in a certain rhythm to speed back up. Seriously, if you got on a rail with no speed before, you were kinda screwed. It was really awkward, but not anymore. There's still the possibility you run out of paint, but these things are everywhere now, and pretty much everyone has a max of 30. You don't have to spend much time trying to get more. But what if you run out of places to tag? Well, just use them to boost your speed instead. Which just makes the new sandbox pseudo-open world approach work better. Before, you just went from stage to stage, so you didn't really need a button that lets you move super fast. While you're still tagging everything, the areas are interconnected now. Not having to go back into a menu keeps the game's flow going. The maps are way better too. Everything is much more clear, and it's 3D. Getting lost is almost impossible. Although going from one side of the world to the other takes a little too long. Being able to travel between save points would be a really great way to cut down on backtracking. I didn't really mind it, but maybe I've just grown a resistance to it after having just played a bunch of Metroid. Having to backtrack to previous places just because is pretty pointless. And the game definitely still has its weird flaws, like there's no way to reverse your direction on rails. I know it wouldn't make much sense, but it would be so convenient. There's still times where you end up grinding the opposite direction you meant to. It's super clunky in this place with all the walkways. Psychonauts 2 lets you do this, and it's like, why do more games not let you switch directions on rails? It's dope as hell, man. A few areas feel over-designed too, like the skyscraper district. What were they thinking with this place? You have to use ramps and stuff to get around the skyscraper part of the area, and it's just confusing. The map barely helps here. And every time you fall off, it feels like you respawn miles away, so we have to play through like half the map again just to try and make progress. And this part where you have to use handstands to build up speed to go in between two buildings is just so oddly precise. Why would you make the map like this? Even when you know how to get through this place, navigation is still a pain in the ass. There's this dude named Clutch that steals all your graffiti souls for no reason, and you have to track him down. When I caught up to him and got to play as him, I sent his ass straight to the skyscraper revisit. Yeah, that's what you get, you stupid simple flips looking asshole. Although the part with all the rail grinding to get to the top of the tower was super cool, I love that. Kibagaka Hill has way too much stuff going on, including the name. There's so many rails and layers of this place that it's easy to get lost when going around tagging all the murals, mainly because the rooms that lead underground blend in too well. It's so easy to just walk right past this stuff. But honestly, the weirder areas are fine once you get used to them. Besides, there's only like 2 oddly designed areas anyway. The game still has its quirks for sure, but it's way easier to look past it because of how more consistently great the game is. And there's more variety. Aside from the occasional rival fight, you literally did the same thing the whole first game. There's quite a few parts where they shake things up this time. Like when you get kidnapped, you're forced to play a super easy minigame where you grab a ball and run for your life down a racetrack. And when you get back, you've been gone for so long that the noise tanks take over, and there's robots everywhere they have to destroy by running into them. And like, you're running through old areas again, but what you're doing is different enough that it doesn't feel boring. You even chase these guys down a roller coaster track. Even if it's so hard to keep up with them, then you just wait for them to come back to the entrance half the time. But again, it's so cool that I didn't really mind the execution being a little off. There was even a few times where it tagged switches instead of murals. Like in the Poison Jam hideout, you're painting switches to open a door to progress further, while also going through a place designed around grinding and momentum. I could have sworn this place was supposed to be the sewers, though. How was making a giant tower efficient for this? Whatever. This is the same game where you defuse bombs with graffiti. It's best not to ask questions. And again, you're still doing the same thing, but it's different enough to not be boring. Later on in the game, there's even these optional area revisits where you go back and spray the place up again. And it's way more fun than you'd expect it to be. They don't just put the tag spots in obvious places to pad out the game's length. There's plenty of spots where you have to think outside the box to get to them. That's really cool. I was worried that I was wasting my time going through all of these because I don't think you get anything for it, but I was surprised how much fun it is to retread all these places. And if you don't go for these, you really miss out on a lot of cool moments, like that giant rail maze in the skyscraper district that I mentioned before, or how that in Kibagaka there's just a hidden room full of cats. That gave me a good laugh. It took me a hot minute to even process what was happening. My favorite optional spawn in this game has to be this room. You see that there's some tags here on the map, but then you wonder how the hell you're supposed to get up there. I figured that there's some hallway I missed, but no, there's only one entrance to this place. I just sat there for a good 30 seconds before it had like the most mind-blowing revelation of my life. You have to get up there by continually wall sliding along each wall. It definitely takes a little too long for my liking, but that's such an awesome puzzle. A lot of these revisits are filled with smaller moments like that. It feels really good getting to know these areas, especially when you try to go for graffiti souls. They serve the same function as before, they just unlock new graffiti designs to use. They're a lot easier to figure out how to get to this time, but the challenge comes from executing those tricky jumps. I had a lot more fun trying to get these things than last time. Sometimes I won't even show up until you do enough tricks first, which actually makes me want to try to experiment to see if any new ones pop up. And if you don't feel like experimenting, there's these new mixtapes you can find that give you hints on how to get them. There's quite a lot of new stuff in general, like there's actually some light combat this time. Instead of having to run away from cops while also trying to tag everything, they occasionally show up to fight you. You just run into them at full speeds and knock them over and then spray their backs. And they even give you spray cans when they fall down so you don't have to find any. It's simple, but it's effective for what it is. Some enemies need to be boosted into instead, which can be annoying sometimes, but they give you so much paint that it's not usually an issue. Even if you don't need to use a boost, it can be pretty satisfying to just plow through everyone and knock down a ton of enemies, especially if you manage to defeat most of them while they're stunned. And because this combat is generally separated from the regular tag hunts, the exploration is so much smoother, there's way less to interrupt you. But not being able to tag walls while there's enemies can get annoying sometimes. Like on Chuo Street when you're fighting tanks. Why can't I tag walls on the way? Why do I have to deal with the tanks first? Same with the fighter jets on Kebagaka. I have to run through the whole level and then run back. That's so dumb. These guys aren't even near me right now. Why can't I do both at the same time? But these are the only 2 times combat gets in the way. It's usually over in like 30 seconds and then you can just go back to what you were doing before. There's actually a few bosses too. You mainly just tag their weak points, but each one is way cooler and engaging than the kind of boss the first game had. And yeah, you're defeating tanks, attack helicopters, and deadly robots with nothing but spray paint. It's so stupid, I love it. All this stuff really leads to a different vibe from the first game. If Jet Set 1 was this frantic, energetic joyride, Future is a calmer, more refined experience. You're not racing around trying to do everything as fast as possible to get a better rank. You can take as much time as you need to explore. While the moment-to-moment gameplay is faster, the overall structure is a lot slower paced. But that's a good thing. You're not going from stage to stage anymore, you're taking in the maps and fully exploring them. It's a lot more chill than I expected it to be. That new vibe extends the game's aesthetic too. Jet Set Radio is one of the most 90s games ever made, and Future is one of the most early 2000s games ever made. But it has a more futuristic flair to it, obviously. The first game was present day, but Future feels like what we thought the 2020s were gonna look like in 2000. There has to be a term for that. Neo-futurism? Future punk? Cassette futurism? Does this count as cyberpunk? I don't know. It's this very specific aesthetic that I can't quite find anywhere else. And that goes double for the soundtrack. There's quite a few different genres like underground, alt-rock, some rap and hip-hop, whatever genre Birthday Cake is. But there's a lot of techno to go with this Future theme, even going so far as to remix some of the first game's tracks into something new entirely. I wasn't big on these at first, but it's really commendable that they made remixes that somehow sound like different tracks from the original, while still resembling them if you kind of pay attention to it. They feel like some alternate reality version of the original tracks. It's pretty dope. And honestly, if I made a tier list of my favorite video game soundtracks, Jet Set Radio Future would be its own tier. This soundtrack doesn't just slap, it practically punches you in the face. The only 2 tracks I don't care for are Birthday Cake and Rockin' the Mic, but that's just solely down to pure subjective music taste. It's unreal how good this music is, and half of it was made by a guy who tweets shit like this on a regular basis. Easily one of my favorite video game composers. Like, unironically. If I had one bad thing to say about the soundtrack, it's that some songs definitely play more than others. Like, Funky Dealer and Technopathetic are some of my favorite tracks, but they play at such specific points in the game you only hear them maybe like 3 or 4 times each. Meanwhile, I swear I heard Birthday Cake at least 24 times. I don't dislike the song, but maybe I'd just like it more if he didn't play it so much. Just a suggestion, guys. Although I'm gonna be honest, I forgot this game had a story, because the thing is, I don't think Future is a sequel to the first Jet Set. I think it's some weird alternate future timeline or something, I don't know. Because the Rukaku are back, more powerful than ever, and were seemingly never defeated in the first place. Before they were just some crazy mob slash cult, but now they're a crazy mob slash cult that also have full control of the police and government. Yes, a full-on corrupt corporation is going around trying to oppress everyone for pure profit. I really hope this Future is not accurate to their own. They definitely have a lot less deadly diseases. It's pretty clear just how much power they have over everything. Everyone seems sick of it, even DJ Professor K. He was this loud, energetic, happy-sounding guy before, but now he's older, chiller, and wiser. There's just something about the delivery of his acting that feels a lot more tired of the world they're living in, like something needs to change. Which is where the Rudies come in. They're the ones going around spraying graffiti everywhere, with the GGs being the hottest ones as of late. You still get involved with rival gangs, and I think all this graffiti activity is a good thing overall, but the GGs seem like the only ones who have their own ulterior motives. They just want everyone to be able to live how they want, which is oddly wholesome for a game about committing vandalism. The rival gangs get pretty funky this time too. Like there's the Immortals, who are these mummy dudes that want to turn other people into mummies. Love these assholes. They're out Poison Gems and now a bunch of burly dudes that live in the sewers and who actually have to infiltrate their base and chase them down on their own turf. They also have a leader unlike the rest of the gangs, and wait, why is Cube the leader of Poison Gem? And why is she sexually attracted to them? Whatever, I shouldn't be questioning this. I especially love what they did with the noise tanks. Before, they were just a bunch of rogue programmers, but now they're just straight up robots that wreak havoc everywhere. The Love Shockers and the other girl group really aren't that interesting though. They're just kind of the we are women kind of groups. Like seriously, I couldn't even remember Rapid 99's name, they're so boring. I think they caused a blackout on 99th Street, but that's it. You see him like once. Also, there's a multiplayer mode for some reason. Neat. And you know, this is the part where I tell you to play this awesome-ass game, but good luck. This game was given the worst possible hand of cards when it comes to sales, because it seems like most people who bought an OG Xbox only cared about Halo. Like, yeah, Xbox had other exclusives, but you take a guy off the street and ask them about Blinks, most people are gonna think you're crazy. You basically need an OG Xbox to play this game officially. The game was never re-released. Ever. You can play it via 360 backwards compatibility, but that makes the game lag like crazy in certain areas. It's playable, but not great. The game's actually dirt cheap for a game of this generation, but actually having the means to play it is unfeasible for most people. Microsoft has actually been amazing at re-releasing their old games. You can plop in your day one copy of Halo Combat Evolved in your brand spanking new Xbox Series X, and you can still play it. And that goes for most major OG Xbox games. What's even the point in having one anymore? So yeah, the only way to play this game is with a 20-year-old console. And I feel that kept it out of the conversation. The first game is talked about way more often from what I've seen, despite the sequel being almost universally agreed to be the better game. Jet Set Radio can be bought off Steam and runs on potato PCs without issue, and that's with the PC version being locked at 30 FPS and having a save issue that didn't get fixed for years. Or you can just play it on Xbox One backwards compatibility. Meanwhile, you have 3 options to play Future. Buy an aging system that doesn't even output to a format accepted by new TVs by default, play it on Xbox 360 with a worse frame rate, or emulate the game, which wasn't even feasible until recently. Like I said, most OG Xbox games are still readily available. There wasn't much point in Xbox emulators until now, where it seems like the BC program is ending. And to the surprise of no one, JSRF is still not on Xbox One. I try to use official releases when I review games just because I feel better about judging a version of the game that was officially approved to be released. But I played Jet Set Radio Future and CXBX Reloaded. It legitimately feels like this is going to be the way people are going to have to play this game going forward, which is just sad. And it wasn't even easy to set up. Some newer build introduced a bug that made the shadows flicker white on occasion and just looked gross. So then I used the May 14th, 2021 release before the bug was introduced, but then there was some issue with like a graphics driver or something and the game looked like this. And to fix that, I had to download DXVK to translate DirectX calls to Vulkan, which does make the game run better, but no matter what version of the game I choose, I have to jump through so many hoops to play it. And yet this game is somehow so good that it's totally worth all the hassle. But that doesn't change how convenient it is to just replay the first game instead. No one should have to go through so much effort just to play a video game, especially not a good one. You know there's a problem when the Zelda CDI games are easier to access. Future is in critical need of a remastered port, something that removes the giant barrier to entry, and even that isn't so simple, because here comes music licensing ruining everyone's fun again. Seriously, why do video games have to worry about relicensing when movies don't? Maybe it's because it's a release of the full music file and you could theoretically pirate the song by going into the game files, but like, no one has ever done that. If they were gonna pirate the song, they're just gonna pirate the song. There's so many better ways of doing that. And I think some of the artists went under right after this game came out, so it's pretty up in the air who owns what, and it's a mess. Which is the main reason why only the Naganuma tracks are on Spotify. They could take out half the soundtrack, but that just sounds like an awful idea. I don't know, maybe just get as much music as they can get and then make new tracks to fill in the gaps. Hideki Naganuma still makes music in the same style. Just look at Lethal League Blaze. Dude still got it. Hell, if you really can't get new music, why not just remaster some Sonic Rush tracks and slap those in there? They'd fit right in. I don't know why Hideki composed Rush's soundtrack, but I am not complaining. Look, these may not be the best answers to this problem, but I feel like there's a better solution than music licensing issues than just doing nothing. Even if the music wasn't an issue, I feel like Sega still wouldn't release this game, aside from Xbox backwards compatibility, which is probably how the definitive version of Sonic Unleashed is Series X only. Panzer Dragoon Orta is in the exact same situation aside from licensing issues, and backwards compatibility is the only re-release it ever got. And aside from Yakuza and Super Monkey Ball, most of their games from the 6th generation never got any kind of port or remaster. Not even Sonic Heroes. Kinda goes for a lot of games from this gen, actually. Unless it was on PS2, they assume no one cared for some reason. I don't get it. I really don't. Because Jet Set Radio Future is a game that deserves to be more accessible. The first game felt like this weird experiment by the end, but Future has been refined into something fantastic. All the weird little quirks are just gone. And with some quality of life tweaks like being able to skip cutscenes, fast travel between save points, and reverse your direction while grinding, Jet Set Radio Future could be one of my favorite games ever. It's that close to being that good. It doesn't have the same frantic energy, but given the new sandbox pseudo-open world structure, it's a naturally slower paced game, and that makes it a lot more chill. It's quite a bit longer too. I did basically everything aside from getting all the graffiti souls, and I finished the game in about 12 hours, and I was hardly ever not enjoying myself. You are running around spraying graffiti everywhere most of the time, but the big difference between these two games is the Future mixes things up just enough to keep things interesting. Maybe you're spraying switches instead of murals, or playing some weird sport minigame, or destroying robots. There's a lot more variety this time. So much stuff happens. Everything ends up coming together and being one of the most unique games I've ever played. There's nothing quite like it. I can't even find much in terms of similar music. The World Ends With You comes close, but that's about it. And that's a shame. If we got 2 or 3 more games in this style, Jet Set Radio would easily be one of my favorite franchises. Which is why I'm really hoping Bomb Rush Cyberpunk is good. Because I need more of this game. And if Sega won't make another one, who else will? Take care, everyone, and I'll see you all next mission.